We're going to talk about violence, so off. Love violence.
Because most people can't see how bad cops are. I love it when tyrants and tyrant enablers and trainers like this guy say the quiet part out loud. And the quiet part I'm talking about is they love to hunt down, prey upon, and make innocent people appear guilty. And the reason they want innocent people to appear guilty is so they can put their hands on them, so they can violate them, so they can rifle through the belongings, and so they can cage them. And this guy right here demonstrates just how purely evil the law enforcement mentality actually is. And whether you believe this or not, the people in law enforcement are not your friends. It's the exact opposite. They're your worst, most vile enemies. So when people like this say the quiet part out loud, believe them. They're being serious. Hopefully you recognize this guy. It's Dennis Bonino from Street Cop Training. He's going to train cops right here in episode 78 to build RAS, reasonable articulable suspicion from roadside questioning. Share this with your thin blue line supporting friends. Let's go through this and we'll make some comments along the way.
I was getting a message from a guy who had previously attended my training, my 2-day course, and he had some questions regarding questioning on a motor vehicle stop. And I'm going to try to instead of just speaking to him and giving him the answers, I'm going to jump on here and make a video for you guys if you're having trouble with the same thing. So if you're having trouble on motor vehicle stops, you don't have the questions to ask, I advise you to take my 2-day course. We'll really go through that thorough and in detail. And for the guys who have taken it and for kind of forgotten a little bit about what it was that I was explaining, basically this is the deal.
This is the deal.
Here's 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 how we're going to build RAS from a routine traffic stop.
When we talk about setting up and observing motor vehicles and looking for those right cars, looking for criminal motor vehicles, be able to spot them on the highway and pick them out. Remember, RAS begins, and that's reasonable articulable suspicion, or for the guys from out of state, that's reasonable suspicion. In New Jersey, they tacked on articulable. I don't know why. But it begins when you spot that motor vehicle and that motor vehicle spots you, because things are going to start to happen at that time where it's abnormal, it's different than what every other vehicle is going through on the road. You'll see that. I'm not going to go to all that in this video. And you'll follow that car, you'll capture those moments, and I want you in your mind to just be like a recorder for when you get to your report and I'll really understand what's going on. I want you to be able to emphasize, hey, when I saw this car, they were doing 50 in a 50 in the speed limit. When they spotted me and I made eye contact with the driver, his head snapped. They jammed the brakes, pulled it back to 35 in a 50, so much so that other cars were going around them. Then they exited off into a gas station. Upon stopping the car, there was I asked them what they were doing here, and they said that they were getting gas. However, there was a full tank of gas in the car, or 3/4 to a full tank of gas in the car, and it doesn't seem to make sense. So it's all those things that don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense that somebody's doing 50 in a 50. It doesn't make sense they slowed from 50 to 35 so they could pull over so they can make a safe turn and go get some gas at a gas station. None of this makes any sense. He's got too much gas in his tank to justify getting gas at a gas station. This guy is literally going out of his way trying to criminalize somebody who's doing something that every one of us does on a routine basis.
And the questions really are, remember, in New Jersey and pretty much every other state under Pennsylvania versus Mims, which was a United States Supreme Court case that allowed an officer to ask a driver out of a car and always take him off to the side of the highway, or into a safe zone where you're not going to get hurt.
And by the way, Pennsylvania versus Mims, it's for officer safety, just like Terry v. Ohio. It's officer safety. What the Supreme Court actually said is officer safety trumps your unalienable constitutional rights. So Pennsylvania versus Mims, Terry v. Ohio, and all the other Supreme Court cases that violate the Constitution work in favor of the road pirates who are already trying to justify a stop.
Begin asking those pressing questions. So one of the questions was he didn't feel like he had enough RAS to ask for consent to search. In New Jersey, you need reasonable suspicion to ask for consent to search. I know it's not that way in every other state, but in New Jersey, we need that. And a lot of times what I find is guys are just missing the reasonable suspicion. They're not really conscious to what they're experiencing and seeing. They just think that something's wrong. They know something's up. They just can't figure out what it is.
He's actually talking about fabricating, creating something out of nothing, creating reasonable suspicion. And the more I think about this one, the more preposterously evil it appears. Reasonable articulable suspicion is supposed to be a legal standard that protects against unreasonable searches and seizures. And what he's talking about is creating or building reasonable articulable suspicion. RAS is supposed to be a protective layer. He's trying to use it as a nightstick to beat an innocent person over the head with.
So don't get stumped on it. I shouldn't be chewing gum while I'm doing this. So don't be stumped on this. Here are some questions you can ask. You have somebody step out of a car after all these things have happened. Remember, you got to separate the passengers from the driver. But there's a lot of other stuff that will lead you to the questions that you're asking. Is there one key in the ignition? There's so many variables and factors. You just got to be conscious to what's happening. You got to start to teach yourself and train yourself to understand what's going on.
You got to be a more virulent, effective predator as you're hunting down your prey. You got to be sly about this. You got to separate the drivers and the passengers so you can get a different story, so you can put your foot in the door, so you can get that justification that you need as a vampire to suck every drop of blood from your victim. This is what he's saying. This is why I'm so thankful that people like this is a police officer trainer. Street cop training is geared to tell cops how they should act, how they should perform on duty, and how they should treat you. He's literally training people on how to become a more effective pirate.
You're a passenger who will not make eye contact with you and has a rapid, deep, rapid rising and falling of their chest, and they're staring at their phone and scrolling through Facebook the whole time. I mean, is that normal behavior on a motor vehicle stop for a passenger to just be in their friggin' phone or ignoring you or not making eye contact with you or acting weird in some way? You have to just understand what's happening and ask questions pertaining to the things that you were experiencing. So some questions that are simple ones to ask where you can start out. Where are you guys coming from? Where are you headed to? But be specific with these questions. You don't want to just get general answers. Hey, where are you guys coming from today? Oh, Connecticut. Well, where in Connecticut were you? What were you doing there? How long was your stay? Who were you with? Were you with this person? Where are you guys headed to now? And again, the same questions. Why are you going there? What's your...
If in this day and age, you're still answering law enforcement officers' questions, you are absolutely stupid. This guy is further solidifying and making the case of why you should never answer any cop's questions, no matter what, under any circumstances.
I was a criminal defense attorney when I was in private practice. Thank God for the Fifth Amendment. I'm not ashamed to say I'm proud of the Fifth Amendment. I'm proud to admit on camera and on the internet that I will never talk to any police officer under any circumstances. Any lawyer worth his salt will tell the suspect, his client, in no uncertain terms to make no statement to the police under any circumstances.
They're only asking questions to trip you up so they can make a stronger case against you.
These questions will start to, really open up what's going on here. What are you going to do? You want to keep those people separate. You're going to ask the same questions to the passengers in the car. Make sure the stories match. Remember, any good interdictionist or any good police officer who can go out, anybody who has a story, even if it's put together real well and they've rehearsed it, I guarantee you the best guys I've seen on motor vehicle stops are the ones that continue to ask questions and beat people's stories up. And eventually they unravel and you'll start to get to the truth. That's just the bottom line. So those are some good questions to start with. And you just got to want to broaden it from there. You're allowed to ask.
Love it. I love that he's saying the quiet part out loud, man. Hopefully, you who support the Thin Blue Line are looking at this going, wow, this guy is actually trying to conspire against our rights. This is literally, the making of this video is literally a violation of 18 USC 241. They are actually conspiring. He, Dennis Bonino, and street cop training, anybody who would listen to street cop training is conspiring against your rights. They're trying to deprive you of your rights under color of law, under color of RAS, reasonable articulable suspicion. Here's how you build RAS. You're already supposed to have RAS before you conduct a stop. You don't conduct a stop and then build RAS. That's like officer, why'd you pull me over? Well, I pulled you over to try to figure out a reason why exactly I pulled you over so I can justify my road piracy against you.
Ask those questions on a motor vehicle stop. All right, so hopefully this gives you guys some foundation to grow and build from that. Hopefully that answered some questions. But remember, if you're not comfortable having people step out of a car and off to the side of the highway and begin to asking these questions, this is not going to work for you. So you need to get yourself comfortable with asking that question. A lot of times I would see guys who took my 2-day training course that I worked with. I'd come back and they're like, hey, I would see them on a motor vehicle stop and they'd be asking the questions with two people in the car. Why are you doing that? Hey, come over here, man. What are you doing? Well, I'm asking them the questions you told me to ask them. But why are you? They're in earshot of each other. They can hear their answers. The idea is to separate them and do an interview with each one to make sure that the stories match up.
Dude, you got to be more sly and deceptive. You're never going to create criminals out of innocent people doing that. Here, let me show you how to do it. Here, Mr. Wolf, let me show you how to be a more effective, violent, vicious wolf that stacks up a higher body count.
Some of these people's stories I beat up just on just separating them and asking the same questions. They didn't know what the hell they were talking about. The stories didn't match. Or they didn't know who each other were. Or they did and were lying about who the other person was. This is your RAS. This is going to be your asking for consent to search. Okay? And
this is going to be your key that you can put in the door so you can fling open the house of freedom and step right in and start wrecking things. Remember, reasonable articulable suspicion is supposed to be the protective layer or standard to keep cops from violating your rights. When Dennis says, here's how you build RAS with roadside questions, he's really saying, here's how you turn innocent people into criminals as you trample their right to life, liberty, and happiness.
Do you need RAS to ask if there's anything illegal, or should I know that in the car? Well, you're allowed to ask that question after you've... So here's the technical answer, okay? Here's your technical New Jersey case law answer on that one. You can ask that once you pose some regular standard questions, and then you can... Those are designed to dispel or confirm any suspicion of criminal activity, and then you can broaden your questions. So you have to start with easy questions, and you could expand. But technically, you're not going to need RAS. I guess it's kind of RAS. You just need to start with smaller questions. Where are you guys coming from? These are accepted questions that you can ask somebody on a motor vehicle stop. Where are you coming from? Where are you headed?
That you don't have to answer. You're not obligated to answer. As a matter of fact, you have a right and possibly a duty to not answer. You need to stand up for your rights, not only your rights, but the rights of every American. You're even standing up for Dennis's rights when you don't answer those questions. Because every word you say can and will be used against you. It's not going to be used for you. They're not here to serve and protect you. Get that out of your head. They're here to harass and collect from you. RAS must be based on objective, articulable facts. Evidence, not a hunch, not a gut feeling. Evidence. And those facts have to be clearly explained. In order for a cop to stop you, he has to be reasonably sure that you have been involved in a crime. That's RAS. RAS doesn't have to be built. It's actually presented to the officer through facts, through evidence. And a crime hasn't been committed if there's no actual victim.
Who's in the car with you? And if the answers start not making sense and the person in the car doesn't have a matching story, then you can go back to them and say, hey, do you have anything illegal in the car? Now, that's New Jersey. Other states, I'm not sure what your rules are. All right, so that's hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I got tons of illegal stuff in the car. It's called freedom. And you think freedom is illegal, and you're trying to trip me up and hamstring me. And you've used this stop to build a case against me. That's why I say corporate traffic law is antithetical to freedom. It's a violation of the Constitution. It's a violation. All traffic law is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. You have the right to be secure in your person and your property, and corporate traffic law makes you insecure.
Maybe this gives everybody some perspective on where to go with this. If you guys really want answers in the 2-day course, we do watch videos from motor vehicle stops of mine. We watch other police officers' motor vehicle stops, and you guys can really try to get an understanding of how this all works. And
we have an understanding of how it works. I love the fact that this bonehead said the quiet part out loud, because this underpins the entire mentality of the entire law enforcement profession. They're trying to build a case against you, and they're trying to turn innocent people, truly innocent people, into criminals so they can meet their quotas, feed the state, extort you, cuff you, kidnap you, and cage you. Please share this video with everybody you know. This comes from Dennis Bonino from Street Cop Training. This man actually trains cops to violate your rights. In direct contradiction to the Bill of Rights and 18 U.S.C. 241, that's conspiracy against rights, and 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. Dennis wants to deprive you of your rights under the color of fake RAS. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon. If you want to support further, check out the Cash App and the Patreon links and the Buy Me a Coffee links in the description. Grab a shirt, become a channel member, but more importantly, understand your rights don't end where law enforcement tyranny begins. I'll see you in the next video.